So Apple will tell us that this is what the phone can do for you now more, rather than saying that this is what the AI on the phone will do. There is a certain kind of skepticism around, is AI the real story for phones? We've seen almost a, so to say, resurgence of Xiaomi and Realme this year. Samsung had a challenging last quarter. These 5 months from mid-August, more than 40% of the sales happen in these 3-4 months. I think tablets is one category which has surprised most ecosystem players, both consumer and commercial. PC users and PC observers like us are in for a treat. Real AI will start coming in on PCs now.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of our podcast called Tech Dialogues, which is in partnership with 91 Mobiles and IDC. And as always, I have with me Navkendar from IDC. Thank you so much for joining me once again.
Thank you, Sameer. How have you been?
It's been a good week. We are coming off hot on the heel of the new iPhone launch. Yeah. So, but before we get into the details of it, we are just before the festive season, when all the Flipkart and Amazon sales start. But I have a very different question to start off with. Which is the one gadget you are not buying this festive season?
Okay, wow, that's an interesting one. So, not buying certainly, but I don't think I ever thought of buying this. It's such a ridiculous design and funny looking gadget. There's something called Dyson headphone and air purifier.
Like the Bane mask.
It's like a Bane mask from Dark Knight Rises. It's absolutely very funny looking, and I don't think you can pull it off anywhere in any setting. I am sure it's good, ridiculously expensive, but I'm never going to buy it.
And what is the price tag when you say ridiculously expensive?
I think it's about 1 lakh plus, something like that. I heard it's good ANC and everything, good sound, but I think it looks very weird.
But we are coming up on the season where people do want an air purifier and they want to walk around and they want to have their headphones. And don't you think it's just going to be this one headgear? We've seen stuff like the HoloLens and the Google Lens and so many other, and the Apple headset also.
So yes, it might be 10-15 years, before its time. We might end up wearing all this in another 2 decades, but not right now. It looks very ridiculous in any social setting, by the way.
So we're just coming off hot on the heels of a little device announced called the Apple AirPods 4, which were announced last week. And as of recording this, we've just seen the reviews go live from a lot of publications. But it also came alongside a device called the next iPhone. So what do you think of these two devices that were launched?
So I think AirPod 4 is a decent announcement because they've split out into 2 parts now. One is a without ANC and with ANC,
yeah.
Obviously the higher price. The case is also smaller. It's different now. I have not personally used AirPods ever. I am sure it's good sound. But AirPods Pro 2 is also not very expensive. So I think because in India, I think AirPods 4 with ANC is about 18,000 if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And the other one is 12,000.
Yeah.
But in the offers, I think
the Pros
Pro
also
2
come
will
down.
be around 20,000-21,000.
They come down to 18.
So that's actually a better buy. And I personally prefer the silicone tip one because of the design of my ear. The other non-silicone or only plastic doesn't fit me. But I think it's a decent upgrade.
But the technology that they've brought, which says you can use it as a hearing aid as
absolutely,
well.
Absolutely. That obviously has a niche and a limited use case. I'm sure some of the senior citizens might be able to use it. That needs to be seen.
I mean, I think I remember my grandfather had a hearing aid, and whenever my grandparents would fight, he would just wink at me and switch off his hearing aid. Right. So I'm kind of like thinking back how he would use these because removing them is like a very obvious I'm not listening to you.
Correct.
So yes, a lot of interesting scenarios where young people gifting their grandparents AirPods instead of hearing aids. So
yeah, but that will work only with an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
So that also needs to be there.
And the new phones with Apple Intelligence now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Apple has a foot in the door now. There's almost a fear of it feeling left out. I believe that this is a good take on how the AI story is going to be. Although it's slightly early for people to start buying any phone, including iPhone, because of AI, Apple Intelligence or otherwise. Even S24, the early signs are that people are not buying S24 or even the Note series, the Fold series because of AI. But you can trust Apple to actually spin a story from a consumer. So Apple will tell us that this is what the phone can do for you now more, rather than saying that this is what the AI on the phone will do. AI will always be in the background. So you can trust Apple to actually give that story. We believe after the launch of S25 in February and middle of next year, before the launch of iPhone 17 will be an important one.
Yeah.
Because by that time we'll have more developers developing use case around it, and by that time I think
AI will have
consumer
matured.
will also probably figure out right now. I mean, if you see, Apple stock actually dropped by 1% that day. So there is a certain kind of skepticism around, is AI the real story for phones? Laptop makers are doing good job there.
Yeah.
They are making progress, but I think in phones it was right now only a marketing currency. It'll remain that for another 6 to 8 months before the iPhone 17 and after S25.
I think there was a lot of pressure on Apple to come up with something to do with
That's
AI
right.
because they didn't have a calculator on the iPad for the longest time.
Right.
But when they did the calculator on the iPad, they did it just right.
Right.
So I think Apple will probably come with their all guns blazing in AI with something really different that's actually genuinely solving a problem. Similar to, it may seem small, but that calculator on the iPad is just phenomenal.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah.
absolutely. And even with AI on the phones, it's not available immediately. If you
Yeah.
buy an iPhone 16 Pro on 20th or 21st, when it hits the market, it's not available. It's available on an update. So silicon is ready.
Yeah.
Now it's the time for Apple to start making the use cases out of it and try to market it.
Yeah, now jumping ships to actually a topic that we've discussed very little on this podcast in the past is tablets. And we've seen actually a very interesting data point come from IDCs. The Indian tablet market soared by 128.8% year on year in the second quarter of 2024 to 1.84 million units. Why do you think that happened? All of a sudden, tablets have picked up.
Yeah, so we're seeing for the past 2-3 quarters the tablets have started doing well. And frankly, if you speak to people in the industry, none of them are very clear who is buying and why they're buying it outside the commercial piece.
Yeah.
In the commercial piece and the numbers you mentioned for the quarter, there was a big deal which happened in UP. But otherwise, outside that, consumers are buying it. Now, consumers are buying in the sense that what we have seen early signs is that your middle and secondary school kids,
Yeah.
your college going kids, they're buying it for their educational content consumption. It's also so tablet in India has always been stuck between a rock and a hard place, between PCs and with phones. Phones for most people, 70 crore people in India use a smartphone. For most people, it is the only and remains the only device as a window to the world, as access to the internet. But I think after pandemic, people have started realizing that the personal content consumption and the personal use cases for a screen probably needs a much bigger screen. And this is from a demand point of view. Even from a supply point of view, all credit, where it's due. Brands like Xiaomi and Lenovo, Acer, these guys have started doing well in bringing some of those devices in the market, which the supply for good tablets at palatable price points were not there. We used to have only Samsung Galaxy series tablets and iPads.
Yeah.
So now we have a good range which actually satisfy the needs of a budget consumer to everyone at the iPad Pro end as well.
Yeah, I think you've actually hit the nail on the head, because if I look back at the very early onset of my career, and I don't know how many of you actually remember this, is I was the guy that had broken the news on the Akash tablet that was launched in India with Kapil Sibal.
Right.
And it was phenomenal to see something at such a low price point, but when you actually got your hands on it, you realize that it wasn't there yet. But today, if you go to an 8,000 rupee or a 9,000 rupee tablet to give it to your kids, like you said, for educational content consumption, or in the night you want to watch a movie on a slightly bigger screen than your phone while your partner is sleeping or kids are sleeping, that bigger screen is so good at that entry level price point.
And the hardware is also getting better.
Exactly, the use cases.
So
for
brands like Lenovo are bringing mid-range tablets with great display and speakers.
Yeah.
Xiaomi is doing at the budget end of the market. Hardware is doing well. iPad obviously does well. Samsung is playing across the band. They are trying to have productivity use cases also.
Yeah.
And works well with the ecosystem as well.
Yep, absolutely. And just because this category has excited us so much, we've actually launched a survey which you can participate in by clicking on the link in the description. And if you're watching this a little later, then you can probably see the results of that survey in the description on our YouTube channel. Now, just to clarify before we move on to other aspects of your data, is when you talk about tablets, is this hardcore your Android iOS tablets, or you have devices like the Surface tablet from Microsoft or the Asus ROG Flow, which can be converted into a slightly gaming notebook. Do these also come as a part of the tablet ecosystem? Or?
So tablets are two parts. One is a slate, which
Yeah.
doesn't have a keyboard.
Yeah.
Second is a detachable. Detachable means that the keyboard and the screen can be detached. Those two are tablets. So some of the surface will lie there,
Yeah.
but ROG has a swivel screen, but the keyboard doesn't go away. That
Yeah.
falls into the PCs.
Okay.
So detachable or slate is tablets. Rest
yeah.
everything falls into the PCs.
Yeah, so you've already mentioned about the various use cases where you said, I'm just putting the numbers to what you said is 27.5% year on year was due to high vendor sell-in and strong demand during the e-tailer summer sale in May for tablets. But the commercial segment grew by 279.7%. This is the B2B segment that you're talking
B2B
about.
segment.
Yeah, on the back of a 455.1% year-on-year growth in the education segment. Again, you've already said that because for school needs. And the enterprise segment grew by 52.5%. So we'll have more executives with tablets now.
No, some of the verticals, as hardware also becomes better, some of the verticals are actually saying that, okay, rather than, let's say in a manufacturing setup, while there are rugged phones and other phones are available, but phones are still very fragile and there's only limited real estate on the screen. So as hardware becomes a little more powerful and probably start matching what phone can do for you, run the software, specialized software, what they're saying is in manufacturing, in healthcare, in some of the retail,
Yeah.
if you remember about 4 or 5 years ago, we used to have tablets when we go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right?
To take your order.
Went into phones.
Yeah.
Now they're gone to the barcodes.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely hate. But I've seen some actually going to the tablets again, taking orders. So, for example, if you go to Navkendar,
Yeah.
they're using a Lenovo tablet with a specialized software.
Yeah.
So they take orders on that. So I think those use cases are coming back again as tablets also become better.
Even the securities in your big entrepreneurship buildings that you go to that have multiple,
Absolutely.
you go at the registration counter, you fill out your details
Exactly.
on a tablet.
At the reception.
Yeah. So a lot of use cases. And just going back to what you said about the popular brands, Samsung, Acer, Apple, Lenovo, and Xiaomi. That's the order of the popular brands. Again, I'm guessing this is more to do with the price segment because Samsung, Acer offer at a very entry-level price point. Samsung also has the brand presence. Apple is smack bang in the middle with the iPad, and Lenovo and Xiaomi again a pretty good portfolio. In fact, I think Lenovo recently also announced a gaming-specific tablet. So
that's what's happening. As I mentioned earlier, that Lenovo is playing the mid-range game with good speaker system and entertainment, focused tablets. Xiaomi is trying to bring what they did in the phones at the mass budget segment, right? And iPad is where your creators and other also do that, graphic designers. And Samsung is playing the game very well with the productivity and some of the education use cases as well.
Yep. So any closing thoughts before we move on to the next segment?
I think tablets is one category which has surprised most ecosystem players, both consumer and commercial. Commercial specifically because, as I said, the normal verticals, private verticals will start coming on this.
Yeah.
Also, as the cost of the PCs is not palatable to all the education projects by the government also. Some of them want to convert to the tablets. Even some of them we've seen from tablets to phones also.
Yeah.
Because tablets and phones are more fungible use cases for a normal student versus a PC.
Yeah.
PC is still a very creation kind of device. You can do entertainment and gaming on that, but more portable are tablets and obviously phones. So tablets will keep doing well in the education space, and that's why commercial will do well. Consumers are finding use cases, and the supply of some of the models being launched by these brands are doing well. So I think the next 1 year or so, 1 or 2 years, actually, tablets will not, do bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking from someone who's on the other side of the fence, I'm at that age now where I'm looking for schools for my daughter, and every school that I go to has some program where they have some form of tablets that the child uses after the 3rd grade or the 4th grade for some kind of educational use.
So these kinds of consumption is happening.
Will always be there, yes. And for those of you that want to know the origin of a tablet, as in before the category was ever invented, go and watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, because I think that's the first movie that showed the actual visualization of what a tablet would finally be. Once again, how science fiction has always influenced what consumer technology becomes. Now, the next category, again, fresh off the heel of the iPhone, is about the smartphone market and how that has grown. So the IDC report says that the Indian smartphone market grew 7% year on year in the first half of 2024, reaching 69 million units sold. would you call this the calm before the storm? Because we are just about to expect the dates for the Flipkart and Amazon sale.
True. And that's almost every year. H1 is not very big. H2 is always big in India. These 5 months from mid-August, Independence Day, Durga Puja starting, it goes on till Diwali. We don't have, Black Friday and, the other stuff, the Christmas sales. But more than 40% of the sales happen in these 3-4 months, right?
Yeah.
So concentrated around Diwali, offline and online both. So market needs to do, 7 crore was done. Market needs to do another 8 crore, 8.1 crore. That's a huge number for this market. We believe it will happen. Some of the rural demand is coming back, but much of it is also going to the second-hand phones market. Unfortunately, we might see some of the price drop happening, but market should grow, and we'll see about 15 crore plus phones this year, which will be a growth of from 14.5 crore last year. So there will be some growth in 2024 over 23.
And when we spoke about the same subject on the last episode, we were just fresh off the heel of Samsung announcing the Flip and Fold, and we had discussed about how whether AI would be a big selling point, and I think at that time we discussed where you'd said 5G would still be a bigger selling point than AI. Do you see that happening now that we've seen AI settle in and
Right. In H1, more than 70% of the phones we shipped in India are 5G enabled now. This will go out about 75-77% this year. 5G, we still have around 40-45 crore 4G smartphone users in India.
Yeah.
They have to upgrade to something. So when the upgrade happens and the prices drop in this season, then obviously, selling a 4G phone above 8,000 rupees right now is very difficult in the market. So anybody who goes in the market to buy a phone right now, 5G is a hygiene now.
Yeah.
That's why 5G share is increasing. The ASPs are going down for the 5G. So 5G will remain, not AI.
Okay.
People are not buying phones because of AI. I don't blame the brands in bringing AI to those price points where, 80% of the market is still less than 30,000 rupees in India. So, and it'll take time for AI to, start percolating there. But even then, it's like composing messages and everything else. Not everybody needs it properly, and it takes some time.
And also when we speak about smartphone satisfaction, right? We actually conducted a smartphone satisfaction survey, and while last year's survey was uninteresting in the point where everywhere Apple was the winner, this year we've seen kind of a stark difference. We've seen that in terms of speed, iQOO has seen a lot of attention from its users, probably because they've made so many gaming phones that requires you to have a fast processor. In terms of battery, again, another interesting output is that Motorola is shining on top. Again, when it comes to rear camera and value for money, once again we have iQOO, which is a little surprising, but nonetheless, it's great to see someone different from Apple pop out here. The highest user satisfaction with software is the biggest surprise, because there we have a brand like Nothing that's popped up. And yes, while a lot of people will say that it's closer to stock Android, we do think that they have done some great things with the software. At least that's what reviews have also said. And of course, highest user satisfaction with the display is where OnePlus has come. And the only place where Apple has seen user satisfaction from our audience is with the front camera, which kind of makes sense, right? They do have some great cameras. And finally, once again, the highest user satisfaction overall comes from Nothing. So some really interesting findings from our surveys, and like we've said in this podcast, the ones before, and throughout our episodes, we have a number of surveys running or their results, which we will showcase in our YouTube description box, and you can always go and check it out there. Now, moving on, a very interesting thing has happened over the past quarter is Qualcomm has had their event of Snapdragon for India, where they've, kind of launched a very, very, very budget-friendly 5G chipset.
Right.
Again, MediaTek, on the other hand, at the same price point, is touting that they offer more 5G bands at that price point.
Right.
So I think, again, from both the chip makers also are slightly moving away from their AI messaging now towards the 5G messaging. So in addition to the OEMs, how do you see these chip makers also playing a role for a market like India?
So even from the chipset point of view, AI will remain at the mid premium and the premium end.
Yeah.
Because I'll not say we are maxed out in terms of camera capabilities and other, but after some point of time, naked eye cannot decipher so many megapixels, right?
True.
So photo has to be good enough. So AI is the marketing currency there. Below that, before somebody uses AI, you have to make them use a smartphone.
Yeah.
I think that's where Qualcomm and MediaTek, I think, very noble intentions. Hopefully, we see Xiaomi. I think Xiaomi is the first one to probably promise that they will, by end of this year, break the price point of a launch, less than 8,000 rupees. But even without that, you should see below 8,000 rupees 5G phones in this festival season sales in the upcoming weeks. That should help the market, 5G contribution to go up. But yeah, they are playing both ends of the market from their point of view, chipset point of view. So I think both are important. This needs to move in because we still have about 32, 33 crore feature phone users in India.
Yeah.
Either you migrate them into a smartphone or you let them go to the second-hand market. So I think is everybody interested new phone is purchased.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head for the next topic, because as per the IDC report and also our surveys, the top 5 performing brands are Vivo, which has continued to maintain its dominance on top, and then it's Xiaomi, Samsung, Realme, and Oppo. So how do you see this changing over the next quarter? Do you think we'll see some shift, or because of the festive sales happening? How do you see this position moving?
So we should not expect some new entrant coming in the top 5. Although Apple is close on the heels, but probably by next year it will be one of the strong contenders, very close to number 5.
Yeah.
But I think that the ranking, there might be shuffle between the top 3. They're very close to each other. But otherwise, we don't see it, and all of them have very different kind of ball game where they're playing. Oppo is a very offline heavy, still 80% plus.
Yeah.
The rest all are almost all are omni-channel. We've seen almost a, so to say, a resurgence of Xiaomi and Realme this year.
Yeah.
Vivo has just growing strength to strength in terms of both offline models. Some of the T series are doing very well in the market.
Yeah.
Samsung had a challenging last quarter. But Samsung being Samsung, where it's one of the biggest brands in India, you can't discount them out. They might have a challenging this year overall, by end of this year also, but it'll certainly remain in the top 5. It's one of the strong brands.
Yeah, they're offering something, like you're absolutely right, because a brand like Vivo is offering, at least at the time when it launched, one of the slimmest foldable phones.
Right.
At the time now, of course, that has been taken over, and we've seen the Huawei concept of a triple fold device. Right. So those are concepts, but Vivo has tried to cater to the photographers with their high-end phones, the foldable ones.
Their X100 is very
popular, yeah.
Very well accepted by the enthusiasts. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And Samsung is of course just going to be in every segment possible. Xiaomi is been catering to the enthusiasts with the camera-centric phones. So a lot of competition where a lot of these brands are kind of getting out of their comfort zone as well in the higher end, but they are maintaining their foot in the budget segment as well.
See, that's the bread and butter, so to say, for India market from these guys. They are showcasing the innovation above 35-40,000. Everybody wants to do that, but their meat of the big businesses still comes from below 30,000. Absolutely. That will remain for India market.
And just jumping back to the argument of AI versus 5G, right? According to your IDC report, the data says that 27 million 5G smartphones were shipped in the past quarter. The share of 5G smartphone shipments increased to 77%, up from 49% in the second quarter of 2023. And the ASP, which is the average selling price, declined by 22% to $293. That's before tax. So that would be 30,000 rupee price point, right? So we are still going to see cheaper and cheaper and cheaper
Absolutely.
5G phones.
5G ASP is coming down, and as 5G contribution goes up, the market ASP stabilizes. So more people will start to migrate to 5G.
Yeah.
And all these brands are doing a good job in bringing those 5G to the masses. Hopefully, we're able to break the price barriers of 7,000-8,000 with more launches. And maybe Qualcomm and MediaTek's effort also help us by middle of next year.
Absolutely, because the shipment of the mass budget, which is the $100 to $200 segment, grew by 2.5 times to reach 45% share. And all the smartphones that you've mentioned in your report, from the Xiaomi Redmi 13C to the Oppo F25 Pro, Realme 12X, Xiaomi Redmi 12, Realme's C65 are all budget phones, all catering to the masses, all 5G enabled.
So below 16,000-17,000.
Yeah.
8 to 16,000-17,000 is about 45% of your market.
Yeah.
These brands are dependent on this, and there is demand here, and that's why brands are asked to bring the devices there. So this segment has to grow, otherwise the market collapses.
Yeah.
As I keep on saying, in 2014 we had 90% of the market less than 25,000. In 2024, we have 80% of the market less than 25,000.
Yeah.
So structurally, the market has not changed. That 10% gap has only come from rupee depreciation, component cost going up, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Structurally, the market is such that people ask for value, and 8,000 to 25,000 remains the bread and butter for most of the brands.
And like you've highlighted before, the second-hand market is absolutely unaccounted for in India.
Yeah, that's another over 15 crore if we say new phones sold in a year in India. That's another 3-4 crore, which we have just started the research for that. We've launched our new report on that. You'll see some more reports from IDC on that for 10 countries, including India. That's the market that everybody should be concerned about, because that's feeding a lot of appetite of people who are not able to buy a phone because phones have become expensive.
Yeah.
So anybody who has bought a phone 3 years back at about 6,000-7,000 rupees, he can't have 12,000 rupees. There is still stress in the economy in terms of income. He goes on to the second-hand market and buys a Redmi 11 or 10 at that price point, and he's happy.
I think it's an interesting point for us to put out a survey on the second-hand market,
Absolutely.
or the refurbished market, and just see what our audience thinks about this. And yeah, interesting times for smartphones. If you're buying a smartphone this festive season, you can let us know in the comment section which one you've bought. Or you can go and probably check out the review on 91 Mobiles before you actually go ahead and buy that smartphone. Yeah, but I think the only brand in the entire smartphone conversation that has kind of been ignored is Google for a certain. They also had the Pixel family of devices launch and stuff. So how does Pixel perform in India, if you have any feedback on that?
So early indicators for this from some of the retailers is that the response of Pixel, I'm forgetting 9 series?
Yeah, the 9 series. Yeah.
Has been much better than 8 series. We also see more seriousness from Google's point of view in terms of marketing, which they are doing. I heard their Fold is quite nice.
Yeah.
Nice device. It's quite like OnePlus Open in terms of shape and the form and the factor of the aspect ratio. It is probably a third alternate in the premium segment and a second Android, which is the vacuum that it's trying to fill, which came from OnePlus.
Yeah.
OnePlus is, while on its own, because of not doing very well, it had achieved the third, very important. It's still one of the important third alternates there. But I think Pixel can easily command that space. But otherwise, above 50,000-60,000 rupees, it's very difficult to fight the two brands which are available there, Apple and Samsung. Hopefully, Pixel is able to do that, but I think it'll take some time for consumers to actually give full confidence. I mean, Samsung being Samsung for 30 years in India, Apple being Apple, it's very difficult for consumers to start switching to Pixel. Hopefully, I mean...
And also Samsung marketing native Google features like circle
Absolutely.
to search and all as Samsung features,
Yes.
right? So when you ask someone that, do you know you can do circle to search on other phones? And they're like, nahi, wo to Samsung ka feature hai, kind of an answer. So yeah. Moving over to the next segment, which is PC. Again, launches this past quarter, because Intel just hit the ball out of the park with Lunar Lake, their new chipset, and all the reviews that have come out of the first set of laptops have just slightly technical explanation for those of you. But if you remember, in the past, Qualcomm came out with their Snapdragon X Plus and X Elite, which are ARM-based chips for computers, which is on the same lines that Apple makes their M series processors. And anything you buy from AMD and Intel is on something called as X86, which a lot of people said that to get the kind of battery efficiency that Qualcomm and Apple are offering, you will have to move away from the traditional X86 architecture. I'm just trying to simplify this as much as possible. But with the new chipsets, Intel Lunar Lake, they're just giving you fantastic power efficiency on these laptops. So game changer?
Yes, slightly early to say game changer, because Qualcomm has really done well in the past 6 months or so. One of the things you have to remember is when Apple left Intel for its own M series, that was a turning point for Intel as well.
Yes.
In the sense that M series give much more, I mean, the machines are much more power efficient. I use my M1 2020 MacBook Air and gives me 10 hours plus easily.
Yeah.
Unheard of before that, any laptop I had. So I think Qualcomm always had M series with Apple in its crosshairs when it started designing X Elite and everything. Qualcomm has done well. We've seen some of the early indicators that those devices are from a consumer point of view, after there's no post-pandemic, but after severity of the pandemic about 2022 onwards, a lot of PC usage is being governed by how we use our phones. People are demanding similar kind of graphics. I mean, before 2020, all the laptops used to have a bad, web camera.
Yeah.
Now you can't even sell a, laptop with the. So all those, all the specs have gone up. In that sense, I think Intel is late to the party, but I think Intel being Intel, you can expect them to actually. I mean, the early reviews say that it's actually eligible for Microsoft Copilot because it's 48 teraops tops and more efficient than Qualcomm. So I think game changer for Intel.
Yeah.
We have to see that it's a now here the Intel's that might and the relationship with all the key OEMs comes into play.
Yeah.
Would they want to play both the games with Qualcomm and Intel?
Yeah.
How do you bifurcate the consumers?
Yeah.
How does Qualcomm try to market itself as an entrant and a serious entrant in the PC industry with AI and others, with Microsoft, so on. So I think it's an interesting time. PC users and PC observers like us are in for a treat in the next, because past 6 months or so, while AI, most of the things are being talked about, circle search and others, on AI on phones, but I think real AI will start coming in on PCs now, and we already started use casing. Yesterday, Microsoft launched the Copilot for Excel.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. I mean, scary for people like us analysts. We work day in, day out, not. But if I have to make a VLOOKUP, I don't need to type VLOOKUP now. I just type that, give me this data, and it opens a worksheet from my source data and creates the tables. Absolutely brilliant and scary at the same time. But I think that's the way to go, and that can happen only on the PCs. So PCs are in for a
absolutely. And just to add another metric to it, what enthusiasts judge PC performance on is something called performance per watt, which is what Intel actually showcased during the presentation, and it's been corroborated by a few of the reviews that have come out. Is at that sweet spot of 30, 35, 40 watts. When you are on your laptop and it is disconnected from a power source, when it needs to rely on the battery, that efficiency has gone up, giving you almost the Qualcomm and the Apple level of battery life at a slightly better performance. So I think absolutely fantastic time. It's your move, AMD, now for AMD's next generation.
Yeah, AMD is doing well in the gaming stuff. So
absolutely, yeah.
AMD is a different niche.
So speaking of AMD, they've always been the preferred choice for gamers. And the interesting story is Sony's announced their PlayStation 5 Pro,
on AMD.
Which is like a mid-gen refresh, which is also based not only on AMD CPU. And Sony has done its own PSSR, which is PlayStation Spectral Resolution or PlayStation Super Resolution, something like that, where they're using the NVIDIA DLSS like upscaling, and reports say that it is basically AMD's next generation of gaming GPU technology that Sony's kind of launching it earlier in market. So I think AMD kind of still has that gaming audience, be it in the console space or even on the PC space, and Intel is kind of become slightly more on the corporate side because of the gamers going more towards AMD.
So I would not say AMD is a preferred choice for the gamers, but for the past 2 years or so, as Intel had challenging coming out of the pandemic, and then there were supply issues, and AMD really swooped in and really got the audience. So I think AMD has done well with a lot of marketing and on the online side as well. They ship more units in the consumer category in gaming rather than non-gaming. So to that sense, it is doing well in the gaming category. But Intel with NVIDIA, graphic, I mean, for a serious gamer, always, is a good setup. But AMD is a very serious. I mean, now we see gamers actually asking. AMD Ryzen is absolutely fine for them. And for performance point of view, they don't have a problem there.
So, I mean, coming back again to the numbers that IDC publishes, the Indian PC market grew by 7.1% year on year, with 3.39 million units shipped in the second quarter of 2024. And the top 5 brands are, again, HP, Lenovo, Dell, Acer, and Asus. Do you see these brands moving about again in the coming festive season? Because, for example, Acer itself saw a 38% jump. But last time you said that these jumps generally happen because of B2B transactions.
Yeah. So Acer has actually started doing it in the e-tail channel also now. And now the e-tail buying starts now with all the sales. So in consumer stuff, so basically second half of the year for the PCs is concentrated around consumers. Unless until there is a commercial deal which happens. Acer does well in the education deal and some of the commercial deals they've done. But they've also got the marketing budget. They're doing well in they'll invest some money in the e-tail stuff as well. Otherwise, HP and Dell are very focused on their own brand stores. So they will keep focusing there. and some of the other. So basically, we are also seeing, just like phones, we are seeing an omni-channel kind of business here.
Yeah.
Offline will remain important for them, but for these 3-4 months, online cannot be ignored. So they're playing both the games, except Acer, which is more dependent on this because they don't have as much footprint of their own stores as HP, Words, and Dell centers and other stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, again, a very interesting point you bring up is the online versus offline. And of course, while a laptop is still a high ticket purchase, people spend more time researching on it, as we've seen on our platform. Also, 2 to 4 weeks is what people generally research before buying it. That offline touch and feel is also equally important, right? Is it light enough? Is it, and like you rightly said, a brand like Acer, for example, has just a little over 200 stores offline. Dell has 600 plus stores, right? So how do you see the dynamics of online versus offline for the laptop space?
So we don't see it changing. You will not see 40% plus in PCs being online. It will not mirror the smartphone thing, because as you said, while they might be spending similar kind of money or little more money on the laptop, but it's a more involved purchase, and you keep the device longer with you.
Yeah,
while the phones have a refresh cycle of 3 years plus, these machines, people when buy 5 years, 6 years plus is there. So it's a more involved purchase. And as you said, portability is important with them, the look and the feel. So while they might go to Nehru Place and other places to see and buy an online because there are offers there, we don't see online mix really being more than offline. As I said, some of the brands are very offline. I'll not say offline heavy, but they
Reliance.
cannot not be dependent on their HP Words or even the large format retail stores, which have a good captive audience who comes in. So offline, online will remain important. Some of the brands like Apple and Acer, they play the online game, and there they have some of the deals which happen.
But this is something I've noticed. Like, I've been someone that's in the market for a gaming laptop for a little while now, and I noticed that if I go on Amazon for a particular brand's laptop, then I go to the brand's website. Even if the price is the same, I may have a different CPU, GPU configuration. Right. I might be getting a bag or a mouse or a gaming headset for free, or there might be some faster delivery.
Right.
Or in a lot of cases, the model that I actually look for is out of stock on an Amazon or Flipkart, but it's online available on the OEM's own website. So
some of the brands are playing this game now, at least in the gaming and the premium segment. They're bundling some of the accessories for the customer who lands up there versus only the machine which goes there, and some of the higher GPUs or the CPUs of the similar model. In PC industry, that's also very different. One spec here and there, it becomes a different SKU, right? So I think that's a game. Dell is playing it very well. Lenovo is also doing it. Lenovo is, they make your own PC as well. So I think that's the game which these guys this is an effort to bring the footfall to their own Dell.com and Lenovo.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a pro tip for those of you that are looking to buy a gaming laptop this festive season: if you see two laptops with similar specs and a price is slightly higher of one over the other, let's say both of them have a 4060 GPU from NVIDIA, look out for something called as TGP, which is the total power drawn by the GPU. The higher the power drawn by the GPU, the better gaming performance you're going to get, even if the graphics card and the graphics memory is the same.
That's right.
So those were all the topics that we had to discuss. Is there anything else you would like to shed light on before we close for today?
No, I think very excited about this season. The markets, most of the markets are up for, PC will do well, tablets are anyway doing well. Smartphone, I'll not say recovery, but I think the past 2 years have not been very great for India market. We're still languishing below 15 crore. That should, we should cross that. And some of the brands like Apple at that price point also will keep doing well. And on the heels of the launch, iPhone 15, iPhone 13 will do very well in the market. Exciting next 2-3 months, and hopefully we're able to capture the feel of all the festival purchase when we do it in episode 4 probably.
Okay, so last question, and this you have to name a device. The one device you would like to buy this festive season.
Oh, I've been looking, and it's slightly expensive for my taste. There is something called Remarkable pen. I love the device. I have not used it. I've not seen it. E-tablet. I'm a voracious note taker. I carry my notebook diary everywhere. I would love to buy that, but it's 50,000 plus for only that use case. I have to see that, but I'm very excited by that device.
On my side, being a gamer, I'm really looking forward to the PS5 Pro. I know $700 price tag has pinched a lot of people, but I also have a library of close to 500 PlayStation games between the 4 and the 5. through their subscriptions and purchase games, etc. So it's very difficult to spend the same amount of money on a PC to build the library again. But interesting to see what that does with so much new technology coming up. And for those of you that are interested in all the latest in technology, you can log on to 91 Mobiles and tune in for all our news, reviews and feature stories. Thank you so much for joining this episode of Tech Dialogues. We will catch you in our next episode. You can always let us know what you're shopping this festive season in the comment section below, but it's goodbye for now.